Welcome back to Epic Agents, the best in real estate podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hamm, and joining me today is Jen Hubbell. She is the principal at Jen Hubbell and Associates, Keller Williams Drive, Greenville, South Carolina, Keller Williams Music City, Nashville, and Keller Williams Mountain Partners in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Jen is a highly successful real estate broker. She closed $35 million in sales revenue in 2023. Jen, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. I just am so thankful for the opportunity.
I'm thankful for your time. I know how busy you are, and really, it's an honor to have you join me on the podcast for a conversation. Before we get into what's going on these days in your real estate journey, share for listeners a little bit of your background, hometown, previous career, if any, and what inspired you? What was your inspiration for getting into the real estate industry?
It's kind of a crazy story. My degree is in Spanish, which has nothing to do with the real estate, of course, but now it's wonderful because I can service the Hispanic population, and I just love that. So I get to work with English and Spanish speaking clients. So I got a job offer when I got out of college that I could be paid $13,000 a year to teach Spanish in Western North Carolina. And I thought, I think I will also have to apply for food stamps if I do that. And I got a job at the mall and started and realized that I love business is the bottom line. I'm very competitive, and they, of course, the chain that I was working for did all kinds of competitions and things like that. And in the first year, our store was up 57% year over year in sales. And I thought, this is something that I'm good at and I love, and I never would have known it had I not taken that opportunity. Fast forward 20 years, we opened many of our own businesses. My husband and I, we were full-time working at a church when we first got married, so in vocational ministry. And we really started to feel like we were supposed to go outside the church walls. And we just started opening businesses. We knew nothing about opening businesses, but they started to succeed and do very, very well. And that led us into real estate development. We've lived all over the country. And my husband was in real estate development, and I was always doing some kind of side hustle with entrepreneurial thing, whether we were opening an ice cream shop or I was coaching people on how to build their business when my kids were little. And then however many years ago, I'm trying to think, 15 years ago-ish, I got a call and someone said, you would be a really great CEO of a real estate firm. And I said, what? I don't even know. I don't even have a real estate license. I don't know how to sell houses. I don't even know what a septic tank is. And, as, time would have it, or, I ended up running a firm in Pensacola, Florida, that really was in a financial crisis. And we turned that firm around, and I still did not have my real estate license, which was interesting because I got a lot of pushback from the board, if you can imagine. Like, who is this lady coming in here telling all these realtors what to do? She has never even sold one home. So anyway, that was the beginning of my real estate career, but I had honestly, the amazing opportunity to watch the best agents in the business, in our board, in our office. And I just watched them and I learned from them. And I thought, if I ever get my real estate license, I'm going to, from the start, do it the way the top agents do it. Why would I do it any other way? Why would I struggle like a brand new agent? I'm just going to, from the beginning, put all the right systems in place, hire the right people, leverage, and do all the things that the people who are, selling 50 plus homes a year are doing. And so we came back to the Carolinas, and my first year in the business, I sold 55 homes, and it's just been kind of going since then, and amazing.
Wow. So yeah, when you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you have it. And it sounds like you and your husband are somewhat of serial entrepreneurs. And I can understand why the brokerage in Pensacola may have been going through some tough times at that time, because that
Yeah.
was obviously right at the cusp of that economic and that housing recession.
Yes, and it was fascinating because when I took over, they had just had a big, like a brokerage split. 75 agents had walked out the door 2 weeks before I got there.
Oh my gosh.
And so not only was that a challenge, the reputation in town, that was also a big challenge. And part of my job was recruiting agents, but I had never sold a house. And so really I had to rely on the fact that I could help them build their business. And it didn't matter that I had never sold a home because I knew how to build business and I knew what profitability should look like and I knew how to market. Um, and it took a lot of prayer too, to be honest. I mean, we ended up, I'll never forget the day that I looked at the reports and we were number one in units and number one in volume in the entire city. And it was just this clawing back type of going for it with everything we had. And it wasn't just me. I got a great team around me, a great office staff, great agents who ended up joining our firm. And if you've been in that scenario before, when you bring great agents on, other great agents come, because Eagles want to be with Eagles and
Yeah,
they are excited about what's happening. And so anyway, that was a really, really cool journey.
absolutely. Eagles want to be with Eagles. I like that. That's the first time I've heard that one.
Mhm.
That's excellent. I love how that encapsulates really, truly we want to surround ourselves
Mhm.
with the best of the best. That's one of the keys, I think, to excelling in any industry, in any business, and your personal and professional
Mhm.
growth is to really pay attention to who you're spending the most time with, right? My feeling is that for a single broker operating their own business, under a BIC or, with a larger brokerage, but really they're responsible for their own business. I've always felt like it's really important to kind of find your niche. And
Mhm.
a lot of brokers call it farming a neighborhood, pick a neighborhood or
Sure.
two or three
Or
to farm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm. I definitely think you need to, number one, know what your buckets are. Like if you are a real estate broker, you have to know where your leads are coming from and what your strength is. And we have, my model is a little bit different because I don't have big teams in each state. I am still technically, which sounds crazy, a single agent model. And I have built out this thing where I have showing partners in each state. I pay them. I also have transaction coordinator. I've got a agent services person, or not agent services, client services person, and a director of operations and a listing manager. So it's like I've got these key people in place. Like my listing manager handles listings in all 3 states. My transaction coordinator, she does all contract to close in all 3 states. And then I pay salaried showing partners in each state that can help to actually show the homes, where I'm still the client's agent. They're still the one that calls me and we talk about what it's worth and we negotiate and all of those things. So it's been interesting to kind of build it out that way because I feel like it's a tall, skinny tree with lots of roots.
Hmm.
Um, and and going back to your knowing what you do well. I remember probably 3 years ago, we just decided we're not doing land anymore. And it's not because we didn't know how to do land, but I felt like I was giving a disservice to clients because there's another guy in my office at the time. He's amazing at land. He has relationships with every soil scientist, every backhoe guy, anybody surveyor, anybody who has anything to do land, they're in his back pocket. And I could call and ask for a survey and it would be like 6 weeks out, and he could call and he could get it in 6 hours because of the relationship he had. And I thought it's actually going to be much better for my client if they're looking for land to go with this guy. And
Hmm.
I felt like I was doing a better service to give them to that person. So we just made a decision. We don't do land anymore. And it was so hard for me because I'm such a yes, like, yes, we can do that. Yes, we
Yeah.
can do that.
Hmm.
To say no and to be like, we don't do land, but it was a great decision for us because of lots of reasons. And so just using that as an example. And also, when you get enough business that you're not worried about every commission dollar and being able to pay the bills and do whatever, it gives you the right and to say no to clients that you don't want to work with or that are horrible people. That sounds terrible. And it just makes your life happier because you can just say, I remember last year, just some people, and it was a very expensive home. And I just was like, I'm up at night thinking about this, that like, they're just rude and mean and all of that stuff. And I said, it's not worth it. And I just gave it to somebody else. And it almost sounds terrible as mean. No, I just thought, hey, I said, here's an opportunity. Do you want it?
Sure.
But it was freeing for me. It was freeing for me. And I think that whether you're a realtor or you work at a bank or you're a doctor, the ability to learn what you're really good at and to be saying no to some things, because that gives you the opportunity to say yes to other things, is huge.
Absolutely. Such a relief too when you're able to let
Hmm.
go of those things that are really bogging you down or outside of your
Yeah.
zone of genius and frees you up to really focus on what you love and what you're really good at.
Yes. Yes.
It's amazing that you've scaled as a single broker. See, I
Yes.
came into this conversation assuming you had teams of brokers. Cool. I feel like this is a follow-up. We're going to have to reconnect and have another recording, another episode to talk just about scaling, how a single broker scales. So
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
We've talked about a few things that I believe are really keys to your success. Obviously, systems, processes.
Yes. And one thing I want to clarify too is there's some things you have to say no to that you're just not involved with anymore because it's not helpful to your person or your business or whatever. But one of the mantras that we have is yes and how, because
Mhm.
we'll figure it out, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing it. So, in other words, who can do that? That is going to provide our clients great service. Like I've never put a post in the ground. I have never, you know, done contract to close, frankly. And some people would say, "What? You don't even know how to do that?" I said, "Nope, I don't even know how to get in command, which is our system." Like, I don't know how. I wouldn't know how to upload the documents because that's not where my genius is. Which you said genius zone. I thought, oh, that's really great. And so the answer is yes, and how, and who could do that. And so that's why I started, and I thought, okay, from my very first transaction, I'm going to have a transaction coordinator. I realize it's going to cost me money, but it's going to free up time for me to go do what I'm good at. So I'm saying no to me doing it, if that makes sense. And it's come
Yes.
down to some
Yep.
personal things too, where I have 4 kids. They're mostly all grown now, but I still have one at home. And there's just certain things that I can't do. Like I had to hire someone to clean my house. I had to hire somebody to literally decorate my front porch for Halloween one year because I didn't have the time to do it. And like the moms who are listening to this, sometimes you feel guilty. You feel like, oh, I should really that's important that I decorate my house. Your kids are going to get the same joy of coming home and seeing their house lit up and looking amazing, whether you did it or not. And that's some of the stuff that I had to let go of.
That makes total sense. And no, you shouldn't feel guilty at all. We have to, as business owners and entrepreneurs and brokers, you have to kind of look at, we really have to sort of audit how we spend our time and decide, is this a good use of my time? Or could I use this time? Would this time be better served doing something else? And can I find someone else to handle this for me? So no, I totally get it. It makes
Mhm.
total sense. And
Yeah.
that's why Christmas light, that's why so many companies uh, are
Making
branching
money
into
putting up
the
Christmas
yeah,
lights.
that's right. Yeah. Was one service that came to mind. Let's talk about some fundamental concepts for brokers to consider who are new in their journey.
Mhm.
Selfishly going to ask you this, asking for
Yeah.
a friend, so to
Yeah.
speak. Yeah.
I
On
got
the
you.
There's a few topics I want to run by you. Thinking of the concepts of business planning,
Mhm.
marketing, and networking, and the importance of those three concepts to a broker's success or an agent's
Mhm.
success. what are your takes on that?
I mean, we know that 1 out of 10 realtors will make it. And it's because they don't business plan. They don't think about the fact that they're 1099s and they're going to owe a big chunk at the end of the year, and they just get their commission and they're like, woohoo, let's go on a cruise, honey. And they haven't thought about what would it take to close however many you want to close a month. Let's say you know that your goal is you want to make X amount of money, so you need to close 2 a month, or you need to close, like me, I know we have to close 10 a month at this point, to be in the profitability margins that we want to be in, to pay all my people and have the bandwidth to give them raises or do whatever. So if you don't know that, I feel like you're more apt to put yourself in a financially disturbing position because you're handicapping yourself because you haven't prepared. And it's really important. Like, we do our business planning every October, and we know what our buckets are. So 38% of my business is agent to agent referral. So agents from Texas are sending me their people who are moving here, or agents from South Carolina are sending them to North Carolina, or vice versa. And that's been part of my strategy, frankly, is why am I involved in other states, and why am I in those offices? Because if I go teach in the Hendersonville, North Carolina office, and I'm really bringing value to these agents, well, when they have someone moving across the border to South Carolina, who are they going to send it to? Me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not doing that selfishly. I love teaching. I think it's wonderful, but it also has been a great resource for me. And since I know that's one of my big buckets, I make sure that I'm constantly cultivating that bucket. And then, another bucket that we have is past client referrals, huge bucket. And I would say our biggest strength is our events. We are awesome at events. And I am not talking about Pi Day. I know a lot of people do that successfully, but I wanted to do something a little more creative, something where people build community. Because if you do a Pi Day, your agents don't meet, your clients don't meet each other. And a part of our mission, vision, value, all of that stuff that we put together, which again is another business thing. There's a lot of agents who don't have that. They don't know what their mission, vision, values, beliefs, perspectives are for their business. So if you can't vocalize that or clarify that on paper, you're kind of where are you going? So one of our dreams is that we are building community. We're not just pouring back into it by giving a check to a local nonprofit, even though we do that. We want our clients to know each other. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I've got clients in my database who one's an electrician, this one's a plumber, this one is a handyman, and like all of the vocational things, but also like, hey, if you're moving to town, one of my dearest clients is a vet. Of course, I'm sending all of my people to her. And I want them to meet in a casual setting where it's not like, hey, I want to set you up with a coffee with this vet.
Yeah.
So we do several group gatherings throughout the year. Our biggest event is called Fam Jam, and it is a concert. And so we get like a kind of like a big wedding venue, and that has a stage, and it's called Fam Jam because I have the privilege of having most of my family as our professional musicians. So my son is a recording artist in Nashville and tours. And then my parents have been singing and songwriting for 30 years. And my brother is in a very popular band in Asheville, North Carolina. So kind of works because we got all the areas covered. But we bring everybody together. We put them on stage. We've got food trucks, yard games, whatever. And we usually have about 300 to 400 people show up, and they all meet each other. And I say, oh, Dr. So-and-so, you've got to meet this person over here. You guys have so much in common. And to me, that's been the beauty of it. And then they just, they love coming to the events. We do baseball events too. Like, hey, everyone at the Asheville Stadium, everyone at the Greenville Stadium. It's fun. But that to me is one of our biggest marketing pieces. Do we stand when we give them a ticket and say, hey, thank you for coming, we would like your referral? We don't. I know
Yeah.
some agents do
Yeah.
that. They're like, hey, if you bring you'll get a can of whipped cream with your pie if you give us a referral. We've never done anything like that. We just love on our people, and naturally they give us back referrals. We also really focus on our vendors. We do a vision dinner every year for all of our vendors. So if you are our insurance guy, our attorney, our lender, our pest guy, we do a huge dinner for you every year, very fancy. We give out awards to our, you know, vendor of the year. We also pick a family that has that we're going to honor who was one of our clients, like family of the year. And it's really cool because a lot of times your buyers don't meet the inspector in person unless they're in town and happen to be there, or they don't meet their lender in person. A lot of people don't, so we're bringing them all together so they can. It's really cool.
The vision dinner, I love that. You getting your vendors
Hmm.
together. These are not only, vendors are not only such important partners, but they can also
Yes.
be amazing referral partners too. And I think that
Oh,
that's 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 a that's something that's greatly overlooked. I think the power of
yeah.
building referral networks and partnerships.
We actually added an award this year to the vendor who gave us the most referrals. And it was kind of funny because we had not had that award this year. And, we get like really fancy looking trophies. It's fun because they feel really important. Our photographer sent us 2 years ago, he got the Vendor of the Year award, and he sent us a picture. It's like literally on their mantle in their living room
I
at their
love
house. He's like, this is
it.
my most prized possession. Um, but so we did that this year. We gave away like this vendor gave us the most clients in the last year. The next week, I got a call from our attorney. They sent us someone. I got a call from our insurance guy. He sent us something like because they want to win
That's
next
right.
year. So,
Absolutely. It's on now. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. The competitive spirit. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And that's just a byproduct of, I'm sure that wasn't your intent when you came up with
No,
that award, but
it
isn't
was
that
honestly
amazing?
out of a grateful heart. Like,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Hmm.
sending us people.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that. The fam jam sounds amazing too. I love that too. The vendor dinner though, that's cool.
It's
I
very
think
special.
yeah.
It doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, it, we do it at a nice restaurant and they have like a special, room that's a separate room. But it really, in the long term, for all those vendors do for us every year, the fact that I can call my attorney on a Friday night and say, I need help, and he answers is huge. I the people that are in that room, I've gone through 4 or 5 people in their field to get to them.
Hmm.
And so they are very special and very important to us, and we want to show them that they are.
It's all about the relationship too. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about marketing? Do you happen to know offhand where you get the best ROI? Is it direct mail? Is it digital marketing? Where do you see? And we don't have to be
Hmm.
specific or tactical unless you have an example you'd like to share,
Yes.
but you could or is it a little bit of everything?
So we don't pay for leads. I've never paid for leads. And I'm a little bit more of a guerrilla marketer where I'm totally willing to get down and dirty if I see that our pipeline is running low. And most of the time, I'm just making phone calls. I'm and saying, "How are you? What are you doing in your life? How's your kids? Blah blah blah." And they say, "How are things going?" But I mean, we just have a conversation. To me, I know there's a lot of agents that even just thinking about lead gen, their heart starts beating fast because they think, "Oh, I hate lead gen," or "I hate." To me, I love it. It's my favorite thing to do because I don't see it as I've got to get a client right now. I feel like I'm just checking in with old friends. And I think if you can change your perspective and look at it that way, it's like I'm making a relationship building call. I just truly care about these people. And it has yielded so many leads over time. And I know all the agents know about playing the alphabet game. And today you say, I'm gonna call, 20 A's in my phone.
Hmm.
And so when I get stuck, sometimes I'll still go back to the alphabet game. And I one time called this lady who was in, and my rule is you can't skip anyone in your phone. You still have to call them. And sometimes you don't remember even who the heck they are. Um, anyway, the long story short is one time I called a lady who is she's a broker in Florida, and I met her a couple times at events. And I said, I don't know if you remember me, but one thing I did remember about them is she and her husband served the community so well. They were always doing coat drives, they whatever. And I just told her, I was like, I will never forget that about you. And she was like, oh, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, I live in the Carolinas, blah, blah, blah. 3 weeks later, she sent me a seller lead that turned into 9 deals.
Wow.
And I wasn't going to call her because I was like, what's the point of calling her? She probably doesn't even remember who I am. So when we're talking about marketing, I also have a very strong social media presence. And I think that one of the things that sets me apart is I'm extremely genuine. Nothing is canned, really. I mean, sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, oh man, our stuff should maybe be a little sharper, or maybe have like better be better visually, or this or that. But I do a lot of Facebook Live videos. And in fact, one of my favorite clients right now, I have 14 of his condos listed, and he saw me on Facebook doing a Facebook Live video. That's how he found me. And so I do silly stuff. And sometimes I'll get chided by other people in the real estate industry. They'll just be like, that's not very professional. You were standing on the railing of on a porch. Like, what real estate agent does that? And I'm like, well, I had to look at the roof to see if the granules were like, do you not look at the roof? Like, anyway, but so we make it a game almost. And on social, we're putting pictures of ugly toilets. I'm standing on top of things that are like, why would they have ever built this stairway that goes to nothing? And I take a picture of myself in the top of the stairway next to the ceiling. We just make it fun.
This is real life, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Authenticity is is such a hot topic. And I think that, yeah, that's so valuable, especially when it comes to social media. And when it comes to lead gen, yeah, the words lead gen, the words lead generation might raise some blood pressure for a lot of brokers, and it's something that I'm sure a lot of brokers and business owners dread. But I love how you kind of turn it around into relationship nurturing, when it's not
Yeah.
we're not really in doing lead gen today. We're calling some friends. I love that mindset.
Mhm. And I think if you remember that everyone has a story,
Hmm.
these are all real people that you're calling, and they may have recently lost a loved one. They may have just gotten married. They might be having a new baby. I mean, there's so many new job, all the reasons why people need to buy or sell. So there's a story behind why you're talking to them in the first place. And if you can understand that, if you can be a part of their story, that's an honor. And that's just the way
Yes.
I look at it. Like, I can't wait. Like, I've got a couple people to call today, and I'm like, I can't wait to hear what their story is.
Hmm. It's so powerful also I love that. I love how you articulated that. And asking how someone is, doing something as simple
Yeah.
as just asking how someone is can be so powerful. Even more powerful would be to ask for their advice on something. One
Hmm.
of my favorite quotes, I think it was, oh, I always forget if it was Emerson or Thoreau who said, the greatest compliment that was ever paid me was when someone asked for my opinion and then attended to my answer. And
Mm.
when you think about it, it is so
Yes.
powerful when a friend calls you for advice, or
Oh,
asks
yeah.
your opinion, or just asks how you're
Hmm.
doing. I love that.
I think that we can build relationships with co-op agents that way as well.
Hmm.
It's huge. Like, if you're having a listing that's sitting and you're starting to I will call up 3 to 4 agents, whether they're in my brokerage or not, and say, hey, I just really value your advice. Would you do me a favor and go over there, book a showing, and tell me what you think? And that is a great compliment to them, that you trust them, but it also builds a relationship between you and them. So next time you're sending them an offer or they're sending you an offer, you already have some camaraderie going there.
I love that idea too. That is awesome. Yeah, and that's a great way to just show respect for your colleagues and really,
Mm-hmm.
develop that you used the term community earlier, and there's so many different ways that
Mm-hmm.
we can develop community. That agent to agent referral is such a big bucket, a big portion
Mm-hmm.
of your business. Obviously, past client referrals is, I think, pretty top of mind for most brokers, whether or not they execute on nurturing those relationships or not. But I
Mm-hmm.
think in the industry as a whole, we know the value of referrals from past clients, a very important
Mm-hmm.
segment to nurture and stay in front of and take care of and love on. But that agent
Mm-hmm.
to agent referral can be such a huge business,
Mm-hmm.
such a huge impact on a broker's business, and also the vendor, the referral partnerships. Before I close, I wanted to ask if there was any. We mentioned a couple of book titles. Are there some resources that you would recommend for brokers, especially specifically brokers who might be early in their journey? Could be books, online resources, podcasts, YouTube channels, social media accounts. Any advice there?
Yes. So, I mean, I know so many agents said, "Oh, the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent." For me, I've read it many times and I've read it like the Bible. I mean, I have so much writing and highlighter in mine, it's sick. But the MREI, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, probably the most impactful book and the most practically I've made the most money in my life because of that. And I decided that, you know how some people are like, my goal this year, I'm going to read 10 books a month. So I'm end of the year, I will have read 120 books. I'm like, I want to read books personally so that I can actually process them and apply. And so I would rather read one book in a year that I've read every single page and combed over it than having read 100 and kind of can't remember what each thing was.
Mhm.
So I did that with the MREI several years ago. And one of the biggest things I learned from it is too many of us keep waiting for the right investment opportunity. And we say, someday I'm going to save enough money. I'm going to buy my first long-term rental. Or one of these days, man, I showed all these homes that could be STRs and I'm selling to other people and they're making money off STRs, but I'm not. And so what is it that is actually going to cause you to pull the trigger? And for me, it was a dear friend of mine who walked into my office and he said, "I see you've been reading the MREI." And I said, "Yes, it's awesome." He said, "You're one of the top agents in the United States and you don't own any rental properties. What's wrong with you?" I was like, that was pretty direct. And I said, "Well, I've got kids in college. I am writing checks for tuition every semester because I don't, and that was huge blessing to me that I could do that." But it was like, "Well, I'm going to pray that you buy a rental property today." And I said, "Today." He said, "Yeah, today." And I was like, "Okay, crazy guy." He left. Well, that night I got a call. I had a property under contract. I had the listing. Buyer's agent calls me. She says, "Hey, the buyers are going to have to back out." Their buyers backed out. And I thought, oh man, it would have been the second time this house fell out of contract. And I thought, okay, well, I've got buyers. Let me look through and see. I said, "Just send me the address of the house, that your buyers are trying to sell." And I saw that house and it was instantly in my spirit, "That's your house." And I thought, what? And so I said to my husband, "Do you want to buy a house tonight?" And he said, "Absolutely not." And so anyway, long story short, we bought that house and it has been our most it nets the most money of all our investments now. That one little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Inman, South Carolina. And but it took somebody pushing me and saying, "Why wouldn't you today?"
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of us, we want to in the big picture, create long-term wealth for us, for our families and whatever. And we think someday when I get to this amount of space, or I have this amount of money in my savings, or I have this, I'm going to do it. And then someday never comes. And so I would just challenge you, if you keep saying someday, do something today. It will change your life and change your family. Yeah, so MREI. Second book that is my all-time favorite is called By the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. She was Charles Lindbergh's wife. They had 5 children. So she had to balance being a mom, being a public figure because of her husband, and she was an acclaimed aviator in her own right. The lady was amazing. And she writes this book and she sits at the seaside for a month. She leaves her kids, her family, whatever. And she walks and she picks up shells, and each shell she ends up telling like a truth around. And it's one of my favorite books at all times. And when I start to feel like things are just spinning out of control, it just brings me back to what are the important things in life? How can you still be a successful person, in the world's eyes per se, with, however much money you want to make or this or that, and also be grounded and caring and be a person of faith and all of those things. It's a fantastic book.
That's a new title for me. That sounds really interesting. It sounds like something that really, is it a book really about perspective?
Yes.
Hmm. I love
You have
that.
to stop. You have to stop and think, where am I at? Who am I? And
Mhm.
what does this all going to look like at the end of my life? It's very good.
I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent long before I got my real estate license, long before I even was thinking about getting into the real estate industry. I read it for its value for an entrepreneur in any industry. I think that any entrepreneur, even if you're not in the real estate industry, can benefit
Oh,
from
yeah,
the
sure.
knowledge in that book. There are a lot of principles in there that are just so practical and so effective and very, very valuable. I haven't read Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Sounds like I'm going to have to
Mm-hmm.
read that now.
Yep.
As a content creator, a podcast producer now for almost 5 years with multiple podcasts, and some have been very successful and some have not been, so successful. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, I can tell you that the importance of just starting, of just taking that first step.
Yes.
I love how you
Yes.
articulated that. Your point about reading 100 books a year, I totally agree with you. I think you should really focus on that that one or two those one or two valuable titles and really go deep and really,
Mm-hmm.
really consume them and take notes and highlight and write in the margins. Jen, that's all of those points are so wonderful. I really appreciate that. And there's this, I've got a whole page. I don't know if you can see this through
Yay.
our screen of
Yeah.
just notes I've been taking as you've been talking. I'm gonna have the links, the title and the authors for By the Sea, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Millionaire Real Estate Investor in the description for this video. Jen, I asked you
Perfect.
for 30 minutes and you've given me almost 45 minutes. I really
Yeah,
almost actually more than that. I really appreciate your time. I'm
of
so happy that
course.
we were able to connect and
Yes.
I'm honored that you would join the podcast. How can listeners learn more about you and connect with you?
Probably the fastest, easiest way to see me or get to know me is on Facebook. I'm Jennifer Harwood Hubbell, and we also have our business Facebook page, Jen Hubbell and Associates. And you can just always email me at jen@jenhubbell.com.
I'll have the link for the Facebook account in the description also in the show notes for the podcast. Uh, and I'll have your email address in there too, with your permission, if that's okay with you.
Of course. Yes, thank you.
Jen Hubbell is again the principal at Jen Hubbell and Associates in Greenville, Nashville, and Hendersonville. An epic agent for sure. Jen, thanks again for joining the podcast.
Of course. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.